Hi guys, Danny here from Daniel Ackley Photography, and this video is 5 tips on how you can get creative very easily using your mobile phone for photography. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce these 5 different concepts of things that we can do to be creative with our phones, and then I'm going to show you. I'm actually going to share my screen in a second and show you some visual examples to help you visualize what it is I'm actually talking about. But these should get you shooting really creative, fun stuff really easily. So let me share my screen and we can crack on straight away. So here we have it. I'm just going to remove my beautiful face. So there we go. So tip number 1, grid lines. To use grid lines to help you with the rule of thirds. Now the rule of thirds is a very easy concept, a basic concept that we use in photography to help us take better balanced images that are more pleasing to the eye, if you like. And here we have the grid, which is something you can use on your phone. It's very easy. Go into your settings and find the grid, and that grid will put this horizontal and vertical lines across your image, which you can then use to incorporate the rule of thirds into your image taken. In this particular image, a beautiful landscape image, has actually got the grid on it to help you visualize what I mean by this rule of thirds and what the grid actually does. So the grid, it helps you balance your photographs, and what it does is it basically helps you point the places of interest in the intersections of the lines, and this leads to a much more balanced image overall, and it allows the person viewing this image to kind of interact with the image more naturally. So what's going on in this particular image, using the rule of thirds, is you can see that these lines, especially the horizontal ones, in this particular image are helping us balance this image out. So what we've got is we've got the horizon in the background and the sun popping over, and we want that to be on one of these lines because it helps create balance in the rest of the image. So the person who took this photograph has put this horizon on the bottom line there to help create some nice balance. It leaves us with this beautiful sky, because that's what we want to look at, beautiful sky. And then we've got this foreground interest, this beautiful rock pile here. And then the photographers use the vertical lines to place us exactly perfectly on the third of this screen. So what that does is it just creates this lovely balanced image. And we've got another example of the rule of thirds in this next picture as well. This is actually one of my own photographs, and I use this a lot in my own photography, especially when I'm doing weddings. I use the rule of thirds because it helps me create lovely balanced images. So what I've got here is I've got the lovely Tom and Helen on their wedding day, and I've used the rule of thirds. If I was to put a grid across this, you would see that the horizontal lines would fit perfectly in the middle of these guys in this particular image. And also the vertical ones, again, would be absolutely perfectly in the middle between them, because I've set them on the third of the screen, just because it creates a more balanced image. And it also allows the wall, for example, you look down the wall and it takes you into the picture. And so, yes, the grid lines on picture are something you can put on your phone. Very easy to use, and it can help you with getting the composition correct in your photography. Again, it's so easy to do. If you basically go into your settings, turn the grids on, and then use that to help you balance the way your image is. Make sure the lines intersect on certain elements of your image, and you'll take much better photographs. So what else can we do? So tip number 2 is going to be find different perspectives. And what that means is basically use your angles to find interesting images, to put it in the most basic terms. So what I always tell people is don't be afraid to get low or high, change your angle, or look for unexpected angles. And the reason being is most people who use their phones for photographs, they quite often will just point it in front of them. They don't really think about it too much, and it's not very creative. So what I always think you should do is, well, don't be afraid to move around, try different things, see things in different ways. So here's an example of one of my cats, and all I've done here is I've basically called my cat over. I've pointed the camera at them from above and made them look at me by making a noise. That's what you might call a bird's eye kind of view. And then another way you can do this is the exact opposite. You could go out into the forest, you could lay on your back, and you could take a picture like this, which is absolutely amazing. And again, all it is about changing your angle. You could just go into the forest and take a nice picture in front of you by pointing the camera and take a picture of the trees. But by getting low and pointing up, we've actually, it's amazing. They almost look like capillaries, don't they? We've actually embraced the sunlight coming into the picture, and we've got this beautiful. These were taken in autumn, so we've got beautiful autumn colours, and the trees, from below look completely different. So yes, that's a really good way of being creative and maybe taking the less obvious photograph, so to speak. Now, number 3, this is something else I really like to do, really creative, really good fun, and that is use reflections. This is a really clever picture. So this is a self-portrait that a photographer has taken. And what they've done is they've angled a mirror into the room. They've sat themselves in a little pool of light next to the window and have taken a picture of themselves in the mirror. And it's just created this really lovely image. I mean, the cat helps because cats are cool. But seriously, this is such an easy thing you can do. It's something, you know, you can embrace to be creative, and it helps you take really cool pictures. And again, actually, I've said, you know, mirrors in this particular picture. And actually, this next example is again a mirror. Again, a bit like the last picture we saw before the mirror when we were out taking pictures of trees. Well, actually, you could put a mirror down and reflect, take a picture of the reflection of the trees back into the mirror. But actually, reflections are everywhere. And I've used mirrors in these 2 examples because I think they're things that you can actually pick up really quickly in your house, you know, like a hand mirror, go out, be creative with. So mirrors are good for that. But actually, when you're out with your camera, you can see reflections in puddles, you can see them in sunglasses at metallic surfaces, you can see them in windows. I mean, we're surrounded by reflections, and they open up an endless world of possibility for creativity when taking photographs. So that's something you can easily do. But if you want to get started, especially at home, mirrors are a really good way to just get used to the idea of taking reflections. You can be all kinds of creative. You could be really creative and actually take a reflection picture of a mirror reflected into another mirror. Starts to get pretty complex then, but it can be super fun. Totally embrace it. Really good fun. Now, tip number 4, leading lines. Now, leading lines are your friend. They can be used in so many different ways to help you be creative. But here's an example. This picture I took of singer-songwriter Alice. Where we took this photograph, we were under a tunnel. It was quite busy and quite a lot going on. It would have been very easy to be distracted from Alice, who's actually wants to be our focus. But I also realised really quickly that I had a good opportunity here to use the underside of the bridge as a leading line into this photograph. So it's not quite symmetrical, but it's getting there. But what I did is I stuck her in the middle and I used the leading lines of the bridge to bring you in. And what you do is you look at the picture and you instantly get drawn into the middle of the image where Alice is. So what are leading lines? Well, they're basically things that we use them as photographers. We use them to create a sense of depth, and often what they're used for, and exactly what I've used for in this image, is to help focus the viewer on a certain element of the frame. And actually, you know, you can find them everywhere. Leading lines we're surrounded by leading lines. They can be paths, they can be rivers, they can be roads. In this case, it's the bottom of a bridge. It's basically these lines that help lead a viewer through an image. And in this particular image, I've used it to sort of lead you into the picture. You see it, and it's like, wow, this is cool, crazy cool urban backdrop. And yet, it's not distracting. It actually helps focus you on Alice, which is what the point of the image actually is. And we've got another example coming up here, which is quite different. This is a landscape use of a leading line. And of course, what we've got here is a beautiful sunset, which is amazing. But we've actually got a couple of different things going on here. But the most obvious thing we've got here is the leading lines of the tram lines, which are, you know, beautifully silhouetted and lit up by this gorgeous sun. Sunlight bouncing off them, giving this golden hue, which is fantastic. It makes this very dramatic, beautiful image. But and actually, what you end up doing is, without even realising it, you follow the tram lines all the way through the image, and it takes you right to the back of the image and over the hill, and then you see the sunlight, and then you see actually quite a lot's going on in this picture. And actually, we've also got the leading lines of the cars that are on the side of this image that have the light bounce off. They're also like leading lines. They lead you again into the middle of this image. Absolutely stunning, beautiful picture. But again, another example of a great leading line, and it's something you can incorporate in your work easily. Like I say, go for a walk, you'll see them absolutely everywhere. You know, they are rivers, paths, roads, and in this case, tram lines, but they're just beautiful compositional elements we can use to help take beautiful, awesome photographs. And again, this is a great example of it. And then we've got number 5, which is the last little tip I'm going to give you. And actually, it's good to lead on from this picture because this is almost symmetrical, this picture, but symmetry in photos. We love symmetry. Humans love symmetry. We like to see it. We build it. We surround ourselves by symmetrical things. And as a photographer, it's something that you can learn to embrace. it's a beautiful thing. And what is a symmetrical image? Well, essentially what a symmetrical image is, it would mean that you could cut this picture in half, for example, and they would look almost identical, like mirror images, not quite the same as reflections, but very similar. So we could cut this picture in half, and if we were to flip it, they would look almost identical. They're slightly different, but they're almost identical. And that's what I like to look for in symmetry. It's something you can do all the time. Again, it's like leading lines. You will see them everywhere once you start seeing them. You can't stop seeing them, and they can appear to be quite a mundane thing. So this picture is a picture of a staircase in the underground in London. But what's really interesting about it is all these lines of symmetry, all this stuff that's like a mirror image of itself. It's perfect, absolutely, and it can make for a really interesting image. And I love this picture. I think it's fantastic. And there's another good example of it here. Again, it's just a standard house, you know, it looks like it's the chateau somewhere in France. But what we've got is beautiful symmetry here. We've got the benches lined up by the side. We've got this beautiful staircase, rustic staircase disappearing up the side of the building. And followed by these, you know, these windows that look almost exactly the same. And what could appear to you to just be a house, well, actually, look at it. It's absolutely beautiful. Patterns emerge, symmetry emerges. It's fantastic. And again, we're surrounded by this. It's something you can take. You can take your phone camera out with you and just take pictures of this endlessly. It's brilliant. You know, it's something. And actually, we touched on it earlier about reflections. You can combine symmetry and reflections quite easily. Now we've got this amazing, beautiful, dramatic picture of what is essentially just a couple of bridges. You might think that's just a bridge, but look at this picture. Look at the drama. Look at the lines leading you into this picture. And then we've got this beautiful symmetry of the bridges, and then that's mirrored by this gorgeous reflection in the river below. Amazing and so simple. And again, you can see this everywhere. You go for a little wander around, especially in Peterborough, in the parks and all that kind of thing. You'll see them everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And then we've got another brilliant example of this here, which, I mean, I love this image. This is amazing. This is essentially just a lay flat book that's had the folders turned in on themselves and then put in front of some light in front of a beautiful window. It looks like it's a circle, but actually what it actually is it's reflected into a mirror, and then the camera's been placed on the mirror, and we've got that reflection, which actually has given us this beautiful symmetrical image. I mean, it's just amazing. And again, these are the kind of things you can do at home. You can easily put a mirror out opposite a light source at home, put your camera on it, and take some crazy pictures of reflections that are symmetrical and reflective. Reflections are, you know, brilliant, and symmetry. I mean, symmetry is beautiful. We love it as human beings. We like those kind of patterns. We like to see that kind of thing. So it's something you can 100% embrace with your mobile photography. So these are 5 little tips of what you can do to take really cool, creative images from the very beginning of learning photography. And what's really good about those things is you can use those exact same concepts with a camera or with a mobile phone. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys soon. Cheers.